the South Pacific 2,000 meters down. It's pitch black. The water sits at 4 degrees Celsius. The pressure would flatten a steel drum. And gliding through it is a sperm whale, 60 feet long, 45 tons, holding its breath for the better part of an hour. Somewhere in the dark below, a giant squid is doing whatever giant squid do when they think nothing can see them. The whale clicks once. The clicks bounce. The squid has about 30 seconds. That sentence is a narrative compression of an event we have, technically speaking, never seen happen. Not once. No camera has ever filmed a sperm whale catching a giant squid in the middle of the deep ocean. The location is wrong, the light is wrong, the depth is wrong, and the animals involved are some of the hardest in the world to follow. Everything we know about the fight is reconstructed from 3 things. The whales come back up scarred. The squid beaks turn up in the whales' stomachs by the thousands. And the whales make a noise so loud it can be measured from kilometers away. A sperm whale's head is essentially a sound system, and that fact governs the rest of this story. Because the only reason a sperm whale can find anything in pitch black 2 kilometers under the surface is sound. Start with the dive itself, because the dive is already absurd before any squid gets involved. Sperm whales are the largest toothed predators on Earth. According to Wikipedia's compiled overview of the species, an adult bull can hit 52 feet long and weigh in around 45 tons, which puts them in the same general size class as a small school bus. They eat about a ton of prey per day, mostly squid, and the squid live down where the sunlight does not reach. So the whales go down to get them. A typical foraging dive runs 400 to 1,200 meters and lasts 30 to 45 minutes. The deeper recorded dives go past 2,000 meters, which is over a mile straight down, and have been clocked at up to 90 minutes on a single breath. The pressure at that depth is something like 200 atmospheres. A human lung would be crushed to the size of a fist long before getting there. The whale's body is built to handle it, with collapsible rib cages, flexible rib cage joints, and a circulatory system that shunts blood away from the lungs and into oxygen-storing tissues in the muscle and brain. The muscle alone holds enough oxygen, in the form of a protein called myoglobin, to keep the animal functional for the length of the dive without breathing. That is the platform. A 45-ton predator that can sit a mile beneath the surface for 90 minutes, at a temperature near freezing, without seeing anything, hunting something that also cannot see it. The hunting part is where the noise comes in. A sperm whale's head is enormous, taking up about 1/3 of its body length, and most of that head is not brain. It is a sound system. The front of the skull houses a structure called the spermaceti organ, which is a tank of waxy oil sitting above a second oil-filled cavity called the junk. Wikipedia's anatomy section walks through the apparatus in detail, and the short version is that the whale has, essentially, a biological loudspeaker built into its face. Air gets pushed through a pair of structures called phonic lips at the front of the head. Each pulse of air generates a click. The click bounces back and forth between the spermaceti organ and the junk, gets focused into a tight forward-facing beam, and shoots out into the water. These clicks are the loudest sound any animal makes. Source levels have been measured at around 230 decibels in the water. The decibel scale is logarithmic, and underwater decibels are not directly comparable to the ones used for human sound. But 230 is well past anything else in the biological world. It is loud enough that, in theory, a click that hit a human diver at close range could be physically dangerous. What the whale is doing with that noise is echolocation. The Carnegie Museum of Natural History's write-up on sperm whales and giant squid lays this out clearly. The whale fires a click. The click hits something in the water column. The echo comes back, and the whale builds a mental picture of what is around it from the timing and shape of the returning sound. The same trick a bat uses in air, scaled up by a factor of about 1 billion and run through salt water instead of atmosphere. For a long time, there was a popular idea that the clicks were so loud they might actually stun the squid. Pop science articles ran with it for years. The story made a kind of sense. The whales are large, the sound is loud, the prey are soft-bodied. Maybe the clicks were a sonic weapon as well as a sensor. That idea has been tested and it has not held up. A 2016 study in Nature's Scientific Reports, led by Andrea Faze and colleagues, tracked sperm whales with onboard tags and analyzed their click patterns during the actual moments of prey capture. What they found was the opposite of the stun hypothesis. The whales reduce the intensity of their clicks as they get closer to a prey item, and switch to a faster, lower amplitude pattern called a buzz in the final approach. If the clicks were stunning the squid, the whales would do the opposite. They would crank the volume up at contact. Instead, the volume goes down. The clicks are a detection mechanism, not a weapon. So whatever happens between a sperm whale and a giant squid in the dark, 2 kilometers down, it is not a sound knockout. It is a chase. The whale has tracked the squid acoustically, narrowed the gap, switched into the high-rate buzz that lets it pinpoint the target in 3 dimensions. And the squid, which has excellent eyes for an animal that lives in near total darkness, has presumably realized something very large is closing in. If you are enjoying this little detective story of the deep ocean as much as I am, hit subscribe. More stories like this on the channel every week. The whale, by this point in the dive, has been holding its breath for 30 or 40 minutes. Its heart rate has dropped to a fraction of its surface rate, somewhere around 10 beats per minute, to conserve oxygen. The buzz is short, the contact is short, and the whole approach is engineered to finish before the oxygen runs out. Then the whale grabs. The squid, for its part, is not a small or easy meal. Adult giant squid, Architeuthis dux, can reach around 43 feet in length, including the long feeding tentacles, with a heavy mantle, a sharp beak, and 8 arms lined with toothed suckers up to about 2 inches across. The colossal squid, Mesonecoteuthis hamiltoni, is shorter but heavier, with a more compact body and rotating hooks on its tentacles instead of just suckers. Both species live in deep cold water, and both end up in sperm whale stomachs regularly. The American Museum of Natural History's exhibit notes on sperm whales and giant squid lay out the indirect evidence for the fight in some detail. The clearest record is on the whales themselves. Adult sperm whales carry circular sucker marks on their faces and bodies, scarring patterns left by the suckers of large squid as the squid tried to fight back. In the case of colossal squid, the scars include puncture wounds from the rotating hooks. The whales are walking around with combat scars from animals. Nobody has ever managed to film actually fighting them. The other line of evidence is what is left over after the meal. Squid beaks are made of chitin, which the whales cannot digest, and the beaks accumulate in the whale's stomach until they get expelled. Researchers studying sperm whale prey have pulled thousands of beaks from individual stomachs, and the species composition tells you what the whale has been eating for weeks or months. Giant squid beaks show up. Colossal squid beaks show up. Smaller deep-sea squid species show up in much higher numbers. The sperm whale's diet is built around squid of all sizes, and the giant and colossal species, while not the most common item on the menu, are clearly not unusual catches either. What we do not have is the moment of capture. The footage simply does not exist. According to the Carnegie Museum overview, no underwater camera has ever recorded a sperm whale and a giant squid in active combat at depth. The closest anyone has come is a 2009 incident off the Bonin Islands in Japan, where a sperm whale was filmed near the surface dragging a still-living giant squid in its jaws, which is the aftermath of the chase rather than the chase itself. A few other surface or near-surface sightings of injured or dying giant squid being mouthed by whales have been recorded, but the actual encounter, the dive, the acoustic tracking, the buzz, the final approach, the grab, all of it happens out of sight in water that is too dark, too deep, and too vast for human cameras to keep up with. So the fight is reconstructed. We know the platform because we have measured the whale's dives and physiology with telemetry tags and necropsies. We know the sensor system because we have recorded the clicks and the buzzes, and the spermaceti anatomy is documented down to the chamber level. We know the prey because we have pulled the beaks out by the thousands and the bodies wash up from time to time. We know the outcome because the whales come back to the surface alive and the squid usually do not. The middle of the story, the part where two large animals find each other in the dark and one of them tries to eat the other, is filled in from inference. The whales themselves give one more clue, which is what they look like up close. The face of a mature sperm whale is a record of years of these encounters. Round scars from suckers. Linear scratches from arms. In the colossal squid range, occasional deeper punctures from hooks. None of those marks come from a sound stun. They come from a struggle because the squid did not just give up when the buzz arrived. It fought back in the dark, in the cold, 2 kilometers from the surface, against an animal 40 times its weight, and lost. What you have, taken together, is the deepest predation event we know about in any thorough way, and the one we have seen the least. A sperm whale dives a mile straight down on one breath, navigates a freezing pitch-black water column using the loudest biological sound on Earth, refines its echolocation into a buzz as it closes in on a 40-foot squid, grapples it in conditions no human has ever directly observed, and surfaces with new scars to add to the old ones. We know it happens because the evidence comes back with the whale. The event itself stays where it lives, 2,000 meters down, in water that has never seen a camera. If you found this fun, there are more stories like this on the channel. See you in the next video.